Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they released. Today we are talking about Confidence from 2003. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And we have a super special returning guest, the editor from Letterboxd, my favorite person in the world. It is Mitchell Beaupre.
Whoa.
How are you?
Big praise in the world. You know what? I came on and I said,
Okay.
I better be somebody's favorite person in the world in this podcast, or else I'm out of here.
They are great. We do love Mitchell.
Big Mitchell app. You know what? Let's just keep this going. We got like an hour and a half of this.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Did
Kevin.
you
Sorry,
introduce
go
yourself?
No, I wouldn't. You wanna come back in?
I was gonna do a thing where I was just like, and nobody else is here. It's just Mitch. Oh, by God, that's Dan Mecca's music. He's not even supposed to be here.
Do it. Well, let's just do it. I love that.
Let's just do it over.
But so, hi. So, I'm Dan Mecca.
There you go. Oh God.
Oh wow. I started.
Keep it all in. Keep it all in.
The film stage with my good friend Jordan Raup, and I was on this podcast before.
You were
talking about
Ghost Dog and
Focus
And Panic.
Panic.
Also
Panic.
Artisan.
Panic.
Is Focus
And
the Will
other-
Smith one that doesn't
Focus
exist?
is a Will Smith one.
Which is also a movie about con artists.
Which
I will
is
talk
a
about
pretty
that
good
at some
movie.
point, probably. I kind of like that.
I
one, too.
think
pretty
kind of a okay movie. I think an okay.
They have
yeah.
chemistry.
I have seen it. If you put a gun to my head, I cannot tell you one thing that happens
It's in the
that
same-
We
movie.
were
I would
focused
say-
while watching it.
I was not.
I would say it's in the same ballpark as
Duplicity.
as Confidence.
Duplicity?
And I love
Good movie.
Duplicity. Duplicity. I think is like
Directed
amazing.
by?
But yeah,
Michael Clayton.
Tony Gilroy.
Michael Clayton.
When he was in that car while he was looking at that horse, he directed an entire movie or whatever.
Yeah. Restaurant business didn't work out so well. Maybe I'll try film directing.
Good Lord, this is unhinged. Okay, Confidence, 2003, that's what we're talking about. This premiered at Sundance January 2003, and the next movie we're going to be talking about, The Cooler, also premiered at Sundance in January 2003. Confidence opened wide on 1,871 theaters on April 25th, 2003. It was a budget of $15 million, opening weekend of $4.5 million, and domestic gross of $12.2 million, and an overall gross of $23 million. I am surprised by that. It seems like such a small movie to make $23 million, but there you go. Top 5 films this weekend. I would be very surprised if not all of us have seen these. Identity, Anger Management,
Sure.
Holes,
Yep.
Malibu's Most Wanted.
Not so
and-
much a hit.
Oh, I saw that. Saw that in theaters.
Oh, I did too. And Confidence.
Loved it.
So,
Oh, that was the number 5.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm 3 out of 5. I haven't seen Anger Management or Malibu's Most Wanted. I have seen Identity a disturbing amount of times because that is the best stupid
I always
movie.
recommend Identity to people and then watch it with them, and I'm like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is like a this is like a nostalgic for me, because they're sitting there like, this is fucking awful, and I'm like, yeah, right, it's great.
Yeah. And as a 13-year-old, I was like, this is the most
I loved
ingenious movie. It's
Yeah.
so smart and so brilliant. And now it's all unbelievably
You
awesome
can
because
say
of
it's-
how
I know.
stupid
I was gonna
it
say.
is. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
But awful though it may be, maybe. I do think it's one of those movies where, like, and I think this is kind of a thing I with the B-side podcast, I guess is maybe part of it or whatever. I mean, like, there's like great moments in Identity. Like there he is. Kevin's holding up the DVD.
Oh, I
camera.
have the Blu-ray.
I got it for 5.
To
I got
grab
it for 50 cents, okay?
the John Cusack why he quit being a cop
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Oh yeah.
Where he's trying to save the woman and he's taking photos of the crime scene, and I couldn't. She asked me like one reason not to jump, and I couldn't think of
that
one.
hits.
One thing to tell her, and she just let go and jumped. I mean, that's Cusack crushing
Oh,
it in my
yeah.
opinion.
He
right?
was a
Like,
really good genre actor. But I
Yes.
know people
Oh,
give him
yes.
crap now for the DTV stuff he does now, but like in stuff like 1408 and stuff, like the world weariness
Oh,
and mix of
great.
kind of sardonic humor he brings to it is like It's perfect. It like
We all
elevates
remember
those
Martian
movies.
Child.
I haven't seen
I
that.
mean,
I-
the classic. Can I just quickly, because Kevin brought it up, I just want to read. I need to read 6 through 10. All
Okay,
right, so,
please, yes.
So, so confidence is 5. Okay. Number 6 in its second week, Bulletproof
Monk,
Oh,
yes,
wow.
baby.
Oh,
The
hell
Sean
yeah.
William Scott Chow Yun Fat
Saw it in
vehicle.
theaters.
What a girl!
Watched it on
What a
DVD.
girl! What a girl wants. The Amanda Bynes.
What did she
vehicle.
want? We don't know.
Owned it on VHS.
Do you remember? Oh God, do you remember there was a controversy that she was like putting up a peace sign on the
peace
poster?
sign.
Wait, that was
Yeah.
controversial?
What?
Yeah,
Yes!
on the
In
DVD.
England, if you reverse the fingers, it looks like you're giving the finger.
Oh, okay.
On the DVD, she's not doing that. They removed it.
Oh, that's fascinating.
What
It's the Henry Cavill's mustache of DVD covers.
number 8
Uh-huh.
is in its 4th week. Modest hit. Our boy Colin Farrell, Phone Booth.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Great movie.
And then in their first weeks, the Douglas family vehicle. It runs in the family.
What?
I don't even
Has
know what
anyone
that
seen
is.
that?
No.
Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas, Cameron Douglas, all playing
Who the fuck
grandfather,
is Cameron
father,
Douglas?
son. No, nobody.
I've never heard of this.
No.
I-
Not a
something new
strong.
every day.
Not,
Wow, if,
not-
if
I think it's a
Bryden
Fred.
hasn't heard of it, yet it's really obscure.
I think it's a Fred. Yeah, Fred Schapisi. So it was like an actual director, and it was like a big flopola. And then number 10, and I remember this movie. I think it's a documentary, The Real Cancun.
Oh, sure.
Oh, of course.
Sure.
The MTV movie, yeah. Cancun, baby, who's coming with me? Yeah.
I also just want to
Wow.
reiterate, I think going back to Identity for just a second,
Please.
that movie works for me now because as I think it's a bunch of talented people knowing they're making something dumb
There
and
are
having
so
fun.
ming people in it.
The
There's
thing
so
too,
many
the thing
people.
about Identity too that makes it like such a good like B movie, like such a good trash movie, is you have James Mangold directing it, and I
Yes.
feel like that's the kind of movie where like you get to see who a good like journeyman kind of director is when they can elevate something like that to be actually
Yeah,
really
and then
fun.
Kate and Leopold the next year. I mean, those are both good,
Good
like
movies.
genre pictures.
I
yeah,
think The
yeah.
Suspense is Killing Us like covered it too, and even they were like, if you gave that movie over 3.5 stars, even James Mangold would be like, "What? I mean, it's not that good." Jesus, like I like it's like perfectly. They know exactly. Everyone involved knows exactly what they're doing, and they're giving it their all. But they know it's such a silly genre piece, but it's done so effectively, and it's rare that you get a movie like that that's so trashy where everyone's in on the joke now, but it's also straight faced enough to be like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
The shot where there's a shot in the movie where it's like they all realize that they have this one thing in common, and then like the camera pushes in on Cusack going, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like, just right the
Yeah.
grim realization of that is like so funny, but also like works with the twist. Like
I'm just gonna
Andrew
leave the DVD just popped up right here so I
my
can read the
God.
back of it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, that was the top 10 of that week, which is just nuts. We're all gonna be
Different
watching in the What of the Family, whatever that was. We're gonna be watching.
It runs
that.
in the family.
Yeah.
Runs in the family.
If that's not a basement DVD, that's like an above the below the foundation DVD.
It is on Tubi, so
It's
Of
holding
course
up.
it
It's
is.
holding up a pillar in your house somewhere.
It's holding up the Douglas family, yeah. Number one song in the U.S. this week, of course, is Into Club by 50 Cent, Better Times. And number one song in Canada this week is American Life by Madonna. Sorry, Canada, U.S. wins. Plot description from Google about Confidence. In this glossy neo-noir caper, expert grifter Jake Vig, that's Edward Burns, inadvertently crosses volatile crime boss The King, played by Dustin Hoffman, and to make it right, he must agree to con banker Morgan Price, played by Robert Forster. He assembles his team, including Lily, played by Rachel Weisz, and Gordo, played by Paul Giamatti, but things get complicated fast with the arrival of Special Agent Gunther Butin. That's Andy Garcia, who has been tracking Jake for years. As the con goes down, Jake can't say who's double-crossing whom. It's true, he can't. There's cons
I feel like
in the cons.
You can't say.
can't
Yeah.
say. He doesn't know. He doesn't have the answers. I also feel like that makes it feel a little bit. I feel like it's relatively straightforward, like most of what's going on, right?
Almost too straightforward, but we can get into that.
he just takes a long time.
Yeah,
to tell
I
the
think
story.
it's a very. It's almost like, hey, what's a con movie?
yeah.
Have you heard of
Right.
confidence? It's just like,
You know, and I literally
No,
think you
but-
could show somebody confidence, and it would be like, oh, I see. You know, it's. I think that. You know, I think.
If this was somebody's
suppose
first
that-
con movie, they'd be like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
and I suppose that's where. I mean, it was obviously it had a lukewarm reception, like overall, and I think it's not surprising, right? When you think about, certainly it's not The Grifters, it's not After Dark, My Sweet, it's not, it's not like a lot of these movies where it's like there's other stuff happening and it's a little bit more nasty and all these things that maybe make con movies more interesting to more people.
Not to play my hands too early in advance here, but Dana Stevens, I liked her blurb where it was like, it's a movie made by movie lovers, but made for people who have never seen a con movie before. And I'm like, yes, that is
well, it's
absolutely
funny.
true.
A.O. Scott had a similar line. I was reading his New York Times takedown. R.I.P. to A.O. Scott's movie review career.
I was like, did he die?
Yeah, I was about to be like, excuse me? Did I miss something?
He's like, I'm reviewing books. It's just like, man, R.I.P.
R.I.P. And he was like, if this is a movie made by people who've seen too many movies, it's made for people who haven't seen enough movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think it's a good dig. It's an interesting criticism. I love this movie. We can get into it, but I understand. I understand that vantage point for sure.
I certainly think I would have liked it more if I had seen, like, this was my first time watching this one, and like if I had seen it when it came out, I think I would have liked it like way more. And I think it's fine, like I think it's okay, but like I would have liked it way more like if I saw it when it came out, because it would have been like, whoa.
Couple of questions off of this. Mitchell, because you had never seen this before, and you asked to come on to talk about this, I'm curious, like, what drew you to want to talk about this movie initially?
Eddie Burns.
I want to talk about the cooler, bud.
And you were like, I'll take confidence. I'll take one.
and then we were like, we're also talking about confidence. You're like, that's fine.
I'll take the cooler. Confidence sounds fun. I mean, listen, I will say this is like one that has been on my watch list for like ever, mostly because of the cast, like Hoffman, Vice, like especially this era of Vice, I think is really fun, and we can like get into that like a bit more. But like, I was always intrigued by this cast, and it was one of those ones that I was always like, I don't think I will love this movie when I see it, but it has enough elements that I'm interested in checking it out. So it was always like on my watch list, but I probably never would have seen it if I didn't have, this pod to like motivate me to watch it.
And now we should say, because when do I get to ever talk about Ed Burns, right?
Do you have Ed Burns opinions or
with people who aren't Connor O'Donnell? So what's fascinating about this movie is, so Ed Burns, right, if you don't know, right, the story of Ed Burns, kind of an interesting story, which is to say...
Take us back.
No, it is actually kind of an interesting story. So Ed Burns literally was like a middle-class Queens kid who went to film school, got a job as a PA, I think on like Entertainment like Weekly or like Entertainment Tonight or like literally like some entertainment show that they shot in New York. Okay, while he's doing that, his dad like liquidates something or like sells some bond or whatever the hell. His dad was a cop, literally. Takes that money and like on the weekends with his friends makes a movie called The Brothers McMullen. Okay, with in '94 or whatever, like on film stock, the whole thing. And then one day on set of this show, Robert Redford comes to promote the upcoming Sundance Film Festival, and Eddie Burns is a PA. And it's like the story you hear about and never comes true is literally Ed Burns finds Redford, hands him The Brothers McMullen, is like, I'm submitting this to Sundance. Please, give it some consideration. And Redford takes the thing, elevator closes, whatever. He submits, gets in, wins all of the awards.
Yeah.
So like within a couple of years, like Eddie Burns and he's like a handsome guy, right? Like Ed Burns is without question, like a handsome, charming guy.
Sure.
So basically, like by the middle of 1995, he's like the new, Tarantino, Kevin Smith, right? This was the time when that was all happening.
Yeah.
Edward Burns. And so he literally he immediately gets like $10 million to basically remake the movie, right? It's called She's the One. It basically makes its budget back. Tom Petty records a new album that is a soundtrack to that movie.
Wow.
Okay. And here's the thing. It's good, right? If you like Tom Petty, it's a good Tom Petty album. It's like there's songs you would know are like the song I believe it's called Wallflowers is literally a song written for She's the One by Tom Petty. It's good.
Wow.
And so that movie comes out. It's got everybody in it. It's got Friends era Jennifer Aniston, up and coming Cameron Diaz, right? It's got Ed Burns as the lead.
Identities, Amanda Peet.
Young Amanda Peet. John Mahoney's the dad, right? So kind of a nifty little indie back when that was a thing. And then literally he gets cast. His third movie role is in Saving Private Ryan as like the third lead. Like if you watch Saving Private Ryan, it's like Tom Hanks, right? Fucking Tom Sizemore, R.I.P. And then you could argue whether it's Jeremy Davies or Edward Burns in that like third like.
Where do you come down on that argument?
Well, obviously Eddie.
Matt Damon did get like third billing for that, but he obviously doesn't come.
But
in
it was because of like
yeah,
Good Will Hunting, because they cast him before Good Will
And
Hunting.
Ed Burns has one of the best lines. He's like, "Hey asshole, one of our buddies died trying to save you." Like great line.
That's a pretty good impression, I gotta say.
That's really good.
He's got Brooklyn on the back of his thing. He's from Brooklyn.
He's got Brooklyn, which is funny because he's from Queens. And then all to say, just getting the confidence. So what's funny about all this is, so then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, is Ed Burns like a movie star?" And so then you have this very interesting 5-year run where it's like he's making some of his smaller movies, No Looking Back doesn't do well, but like Sidewalks of New York is like really supported and does okay. And in the meantime, he makes like Ed Burns Vehicles, right? He makes like 15 Minutes with De Niro.
Yeah.
He makes Life or Something Like It with him and Angelina Jolie. He makes Confidence. He makes A Sound of Thunder, which is like one of the biggest flops in the history of the world.
I'm gonna watch that garbage.
Yeah.
and then that's kind of the end, right? Like after that, it's basically like, okay, Ed Burns isn't a movie star. He keeps making his movies. He makes the first movie ever released onto iTunes, Purple Violets, right? Like he just keeps making his movies. And now he kind of like doesn't. He's a little bit like he makes really small movies that are, you gotta go straight to streaming. But like, what an interesting 5-year run, right? It's just a funny like could never happen now thing, right? With him, where it's like, that's it, man. And so this is right in the middle of that. Like maybe Ed Burns is a big, Matt Damon-esque, guy, and obviously the answer was no, unfortunately. But
Yeah, and it's funny too that like you talk about like Life or Something Like It, which I've never seen. I know.
it's not good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But it's funny that he's like the romantic lead, and then like within 5 or 6 years, he's like playing the wrong guy in like the romantic
In
comedy.
like 40 movies.
Yeah, like in The Holiday, he's the guy.
The
who,
Holiday,
like, gets punched by
27
Cameron Diaz.
Dresses.
And,
Yeah,
27 Dresses. Like he's like a nice guy, but it's like that's not who she's meant to end up with, and everything. It's so funny how quickly that changes, and that's like a sign. Oh, he's not a star anymore.
Oh
That's-
yeah, no, 100%. No, and I think that's and his only starring roles are in like kind of straight to DVD movies, or like he's in One Missed Call, right, which is like a horror movie.
The
I'm gonna
American
watch that
remake.
garbage. Yeah. He's in like 3 wide release horror movies that I'm gonna have to watch, and none of them sound good. Sound of
I
Thunder,
think-
One Missed Call.
Yeah, Sound of Thunder. Yeah, I think Sound of Thunder. He like openly talks about being, I think like a tax. Not he didn't do this, but I think like it was like a tax shelter movie, like
Oh.
type
I
of
mean,
a
it certainly
movie.
feels like it.
Yeah,
Looks like
Peter
it.
Hyams directed it, which is
Am I
interesting.
wrong in
King, legend.
thinking in remembering that Sound of Thunder is like one of the worst reviewed films on Rotten Tomatoes or something?
Oh no, it is.
You are not wrong.
One Missed Call
6%.
also has like a 0%, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Sound of
And then
Thunder
he's
has something on that. It's 6%.
Well,
And
yeah.
and also I believe Ed Burns is like the other cop in that Sam Worthington, also similar to Ed Burns in his
Man on the Ledge.
Man on the Ledge.
He's
in
on
his,
the
in
ledge.
his Ascension and Descension.
He's also in
He's like-
Alex Cross, where
He's
he's
like,
Tyler Perry's partner.
Sam, get off that ledge.
Already was
Sam,
Alex Cross.
Get off
I
that
looked
ledge,
up,
Sam.
yeah. I haven't seen any Ed Burns movies apart from this and
Me
Saving Private
neither.
Ryan. This is kind
Yeah,
of my
same.
gateway. 'Cause-
I have seen
All
every
of them.
single one.
Okay, I'm
Let
curious.
me just say I love it. I just love him. I love
2 things. I was looking up, and Ed Burns got to start as a PA on the Oliver Stone movie The Doors, and he was working as a gopher on Entertainment Tonight.
And so it's- okay, Entertainment
yeah.
Tonight, yep.
And then also I wanted to say, so Mitchell claimed both of these, and then I think Dan looked at her list of stuff, and he's like, well, who has confidence? Because I have to do that. And it was
I
like,
gotta
Mitchell.
tell what confidence.
And he was like, tell them they either give it up or I'm coming on. and Mitchell was like,
Oh, I
let's fucking
DM
go.
Mitchell. I was like, yo,
Let's fucking do it. Okay, let's get into the rundown real quick.
I love his name is Jake Vig.
That is like a that's
What an
bold.
insane and they
a
never
bold
make
name to
it. They
write.
never even make a point to be like, oh well, they called me Vig because my dad he would run numbers and there was always a Vig in the house and so people call literally
It's
it's
just
like
his name.
Yeah.
like he was born with the name Vig and he became a con man.
on
Okay.
his
Okay.
His brother was
Okay.
Butch Vig, the legendary music producer.
That would be amazing if there was a scene where someone was like, "Your name is Vig," and he's like, "Yeah, what?" like,
Yeah, deal with it.
yeah, like,
Yeah. Confidence is written by Doug Jung. This is his first script. After this, he was the creator of the TV show Dark Blue from 2009 to 2010. He wrote Star Trek Beyond and has a story by credit for the worst film ever, The Cloverfield Paradox, in 2018.
Worst film ever.
What a moment.
It's up there. Okay. No takes. Cloverfield Paradox, worst movie ever. Directed by James Foley. Prior to this, a lot of Madonna music videos, which culminates in him directing Who's That Girl in 1987, which he stars in. But Reckless in 1984. Bryden, I believe you watched that and said it was doo-doo water. Is that what you
It's
said?
pretty bad. It does. The thing about Foley is his movies can look really good, and it's shot by Michael Ballhaus before he became Scorsese's regular DP, and there are some gorgeous bits of lighting and everything. There's a sex scene where it's all lit by the red lighting of a school furnace, and there's some good musical sequences. There's a whole scene where they dance to Romeo Void and the camera's circling around them and moving in closer, and it's oh, this is really good. But the Aiden, it's a romance between Aiden Quinn and Daryl Hannah, and Quinn is so fucking creepy in the movie. Foley went on to direct Fear, and I'm yeah, no shit. This guy seems a few degrees removed from Mark Wahlberg's Psychopath and Fear and everything, because he's saying.
Well, Foley, I mean, we can get into it. Foley's fascinating because I think he's a total pro director in that he's made so many different kinds of movies, right? But yeah, you're right. A lot of them are kind of, poopy movies, right? They're not great, but
Perfect Stranger.
oh,
But what's
perfect
funny
stranger,
is-
Jesus.
but what's funny is within that, right, is At Close Range is great. After Dark, My Sweet is great. Glengarry Glen Ross,
Great movie.
Yeah.
and Fear. I think Fear is really pretty good too.
It is. Yeah.
And so I think right there, that's a good resume. And then you have stuff
after this.
but then you have Who's That Girl, right? 2 Bits is kind of a silly movie. The Chamber is
The Corruptor. Yeah.
The Corruptor's I kind of think The Corruptor's kind of
Chow
cool.
Yun-fat's really good in it. It has a big
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg problem. That's,
Sure.
Yeah.
He was like Mark Wahlberg. He directed a Marky Mark music video too.
Oh,
Yes, he
Foley.
did.
So he was,
yes.
he was really in the Mark
I forgot to
Wahlberg
put
game
that
for a
down, but
little bit
yes,
there.
yeah. But yeah, after this, Perfect Stranger, which we talked about, 12 episodes of House of Cards, and of course, his last films, 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed, which, I mean, if you're going to go out on top, there's no better way to do
Which
it.
are not good movies, but to Bryden's point, they look amazing. So it's he will always do, even if he's doing those types of movies, he's working with John Schwartzman, and it's they look really good. I don't know. He's an interesting director for sure.
I mean, I like a lot of these journeyman directors. The prime example
Love
I think
him.
of is Curtis Hanson, where I love that he's able to do so many different types of movies and make them so economical and so good looking, and maybe there's not a discernible theme that runs across all the movies, but it's he made good movies, and it's I like directors who are able to be malleable in that way, across
I love
different
him, yeah.
genres. It's
Yeah,
I have major respect for them as well as Theo George.
Hyams. Peter Hyams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Starring Edward Burns as Jake Vick. Mecca already beautifully tackled this, but I'm just going to go through it real quick. The Brothers Macmillan, 1995, which he also wrote, and 15 Minutes, 2001, Life is Something Like It, in 2002. After this, The Sound of Thunder, the longest film of all time, The Holiday, in 2006. 4 episodes of playing himself on Entourage, Man on the Ledge, and Alex Cross in 2012. Dustin Hoffman as The King. Prior to this, I'm going to try some non-obvious ones here. Lenny in 1974, which he's amazing in. That movie's awesome. Straight Time, 1978. Mitchell, please plug your article.
Oh yeah, good.
Oh yeah,
good
yeah.
article.
Straight Time, directed by Ulu Grossbard, one of the best movies ever made. I just wrote an essay on it for Paste magazine that people can read if they would like to.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Played Lisa's substitute, Mr. Bergstrom, on The Simpsons in 1991. He was in The Sphere and Sphere in 1998, Moonlight Mile in 2002. I can't-
Love
that's
love
that is mechacore.
That's definitively
Cannot
mechacore.
Cannot overstate. That might be the most definitive mechacore. I love that movie. Yeah.
It's very good.
Movie.
After this, Racing Stripes in 2005, Perfume,
this.
The Story of the Murderer in
Oh,
2006,
kind of a good movie. Tom Twicker movie. Yeah.
Ben Whishaw.
The Longest Film of All Time, The Holiday in 2006, Last Chance Harvey in 2008, and something called Sam and Kate from last year.
Oh, that's with that. Can I tell you?
Yeah.
That is a movie in which it's, I believe, Sissy Spacek and Dustin Hoffman. Speaking of It Runs in the Family, I believe that movie is Sissy Spacek and Dustin Hoffman and their real life kids. It's like a foursome.
Jake Hoffman?
It's like a
They
foursome.
got Jake in there?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I think it's Skylar Fisk, Jack, the daughter of Jack Fisk, and Sissy Spacek. And and what's his name? Is it Jake Hoffman? Is it
Jake
actually
Hoffman.
Jake
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that like a Netflix movie or something like that? Something
I've never heard of that in my life.
It's weird. I mean, not to like take us into this detour, but I did not know that Hoffman was still making movies because I thought he got like kind of canceled.
He did get kind of
Well,
canceled.
yeah.
Like no, I mean, I guess if he's making movies, he's not really canceled or anything. But there was like
Who
scandals
is
about
really?
that, you
But
know?
yeah. I mean, he definitely.
Well,
went a
look,
little
Hoffman.
bit quiet.
So I listened to the actors' commentary, or some of the actors' commentary on Confidence, and Hoffman.
You're still
talks-
listening to it right now.
Yeah. Hoffman talks about some of the stuff he does in this movie, and he plays an unseemly gangster. You know, in
And
Confidence.
he's fucking great in it. Let's be honest.
great.
He's
Maybe the best
fantastic in this
performance in the
movie.
great.
Yeah.
in it. And I
whoa,
think
whoa. Well,
Yeah.
I don't want to go that far, Bryden, because Rachel Weisz is right there. But yeah.
Luis Guzman is
Also
right
good.
there, but whatever.
Donald Logue is right there.
Donald Logue.
Everybody's
Yeah.
kind of good in this
Ground
movie.
for Life
John
is in
Carroll
this,
Lynch is great in this.
Are we not
John
even
Carroll
talking
Lynch
about
is so
Eddie
good.
Burns? Eddie Burns is good. Anyway,
That's a given. That's we all know.
Brian
Eddie
Van
Burns is
Holt,
so
anyone?
good.
You take him for advantage.
But anyway, even in this commentary from presumably 04, let's say, look, I think Hoffman is one of those guys who comes from a different time, and the acting, he's like very famously a capital A actor, capital M method, blah, 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 all that stuff. You know, the subject of the famous Laurence Olivier story from Marathon Man, right? Where it's
Right.
like, he ran to set, 5 a.m. call time. Olivier's like, "What's up? What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, my character is running from you. Like, you know, I was trying to get." And he's like, "It's called acting, dear boy, right?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a famous story. So I think, you know, all that shit caught up with Hoffman. You know, when Meryl Streep talked about how
Kramer,
literally he made her hate herself on the set of Kramer versus Kramer, which is, you know, one of the best, I don't know, movies I've ever seen. It's like, so it's very hard, you know, it's sometimes hard to hear those things, and I get it.
And
I think
I'm going to bring it up in a little bit with our trivia, which is going to emphasize that.
Oh no. Wait, real quick though, did any of you get like? Is the movie hinting that he's bisexual in this movie?
I
fully.
wrote down in my
Yeah,
notes that he's
okay.
giving very bisexual energy.
Yeah.
and that was a Hoffman ad, right? That wasn't in the script, and I think he talks about how in the scene in which Jake Vig, Edward Burns, has to come to the king and be like, "Hey, we accidentally stole your money. Our bad. We didn't mean to do it." And the king is like, "Okay, well now you owe me one." And he like flirts with him openly. Like he did that, you know, just in real time because, you know, Edward Burns is a very handsome, tall guy. And I think the whole idea was Hoffman was a late addition to the cast. And they rewrote the character who was written to be like a big imposing force. And he obviously, Hoffman's famously diminutive, right? And so I think it was like, how do I intimidate Ed Burns? And I think some of that comes from that. He's
Ed
like
Burns
a
comes in,
predator.
"You kissing guys? Really?"
Hey, oh, wait! I'm from Queens. My dad was a cop. I was a PA on every.
My mom was the worst redhead ever. Yeah.
Wait a second. Can we talk about?
Not yet.
This is-
Not yet.
All right,
Shirley
we'll get to
Vig.
it. We'll get to it.
I'm
I have
Edward
thoughts.
Burns.
I have thoughts. What? I'll say.
I made Looking for Kitty.
I kind of want to watch that because it was shot on DV.
It's pretty good.
Okay. Rachel Weisz as Lily. Prior to this, Chain Reaction in 1996. I don't remember that movie. I've seen it. Going All the Way in 1997, and I really want to watch that new director's cut. I don't know if that's actually out. I should probably double check on that.
It is out. It is out.
It is out? Cool.
Very good. Very
The
good.
Mummy in 1999, About a Boy in 2002. After this, Constantine in 2005. Hell yeah. Won an Oscar for not Constantine, but The Constant Gardener in 2005. Classic Snooze Fest, The Fountain in 2006.
Oh,
Didn't
shut
know
the
she was
fuck
in it.
up.
Watch it. Wait, Kevin, you gotta mention this same year, 03, she makes another con movie with Dustin Hoffman, Runaway Jury.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Oh,
That's
right.
A lot
Which
of people
is-
in this movie are
with
in.
John
Isn't Luis
Cusack is
Guzman's
in that
it?
one.
And Luis
Yeah.
Guzman.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Luis Guzman.
Pretty good movie.
That is a good movie.
Which is it's interesting. It's about a workplace shooting and gun safety, which
Really?
it's a real timepiece because that doesn't come up anymore in our society at all.
That
So
is
it's
true.
weird to
I don't
watch
even know what
that.
you're. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I know. It's like we
honestly.
fixed it. We totally fixed it. It's
If you
over now, so-
try to enter a building with an unauthorized
it would
gun,
never
just-
happen. Not in
it won't
America.
let you.
Not in
Yeah.
America.
Didn't know she was in a remake of the 1990 film movie Deep Blue Sea in 2011. Thought that was cool. And The
She's
Lobster
amazing in that Terrence
2015.
Davies movie. Oh God, I need to leave.
It's a great.
I didn't say it was bad. I haven't seen it. It was just a Deep Blue Sea joke. And The Lobster in 2015. Andy Garcia is Gunther Bhutan. Prior to this, The Untouchables in 1998. Black Rain by 1989. I'll just give y'all like 5 minutes to talk about that. That's fine.
Great score.
Hero in 1992 with Dustin Hoffman. Who could forget Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead in 1995.
We've all seen it.
I need to watch it. I have a penchant to watch all of the very majorly obvious Tarantino ripoffs in the mid-90s. Ocean's 11, 2001, which rules. After this, Twisted in 2004. Smoking Goddamn Aces in 2006.
Oh, dude, have you guys seen Twisted?
No.
No.
but
I have seen
Oh.
Twisted.
I know of it though.
if you could describe that movie with one word, what would it be?
Twisted. All right. You know what? It's Twisted. I'll tell you what.
Honestly, it is pretty twisted. It gives you what it. What's
Mitchell, have you seen
advertising.
Twisted?
I've seen Twisted.
Oh man, that movie.
Doesn't that also have like a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes or something?
Oh, it is
Not well
That-
reviewed. That movie was not well reviewed.
I believe
I
Philip.
remember.
I think a Philip Kaufman picture.
Yeah.
The great Philip Kaufman.
Weird.
Yeah.
And Book Club in 2018. Sure, why not? Also starring Paul Giamatti, Morris Chestnut, Luis Guzman, Robert Forster, The Lust Victim, The Zodiac Killer, etc. Who's the Lust Victim again? What's his name?
Leland Orser.
Leland Orser,
Leland
yeah.
Orser.
Good
Oh, that was
Fucking
him.
Incredible
Oh,
in Seven. Yeah, at the very start, at the very first con.
shit. Oh
yeah.
fuck. Okay.
Trivia, I only found 2 because I wasn't able to actually listen to the 19 commentaries on the DVD I have.
Dan's got it. Dan's got it covered. Don't
That's
worry.
true. That's true. The first trivia fact Dan already mentioned, it was written for somebody who the King was written for somebody who's like 250 pounds and owned a boxing gym, and they changed that when Hoffman signed on. Big yikes ahead. For the scene where the King meets Jake and Lily for the first time, Hoffman and Burns rehearsed the scene extensively. Wise wasn't included because director James Foley wanted to have her uncomfortable with how the scene might unfold, so when Hoffman leans over and grabs her by her breast, Wise's shock reaction is completely genuine.
That makes me
That's
so
awful.
angry. I hated it watching it, and I didn't even know that. God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think what. Yeah, it's not great. I mean, I think it's interesting. It's like more to the point of the Hoffman thing of like, I think he talks a lot about that decision, and it's nothing he says will make you be like, oh, well, that makes. I mean, he sounds totally fine, but I just think it's that thing of like, look.
She can act shocked, sir. It's not out of her range.
But I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
literally
Jesus.
like, look, it's like the intimacy coordinator thing now, and I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
like, yeah, look, that's a great example of why that role exists now, and probably why it should exist. I mean, because it's like, you always hear that conversation of like spontaneity, reaction, right? Like, and it's like, it's interesting. In that same scene, Dustin Hoffman smacks Edward Burns. And in the commentary, Hoffman talks about how they rehearsed it. So there's such a weird hypocrisy. to
Wise's
that.
reaction to that is
Yeah.
very genuine
Jesus
as well.
That's my
Christ.
point. Where it's like, well, so then why you can rehearse it with Burns,
Right.
and then with Foley on the side, you're doing a surprise thing with Weiss, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I think Yeah, and it's not a great thing that probably doesn't exist quite as much. Hopefully not. But yeah, definitely.
Confidence game is like putting on a play where everyone knows their part. Lionel, he's dead.
What about the money?
Everyone except for the mark.
I can't be here!
You guys were late.
You guys got a lot of sack, man.
It's confidence. So it's confidence. So what do you hear?
It seems Lionel's an accountant for the king.
Hey, what's a king?
I'm not gonna hurt you. Not a violent man. I like to think I'm above that.
Yeah, well, we all can't be model citizens such as yourself.
Oh, yeah. You took my money. What's gonna happen now?
I play a cut. You get a cut, I get a cut. We get square.
All right.
How much are we going after?
$5 million.
I'm just thinking out loud here, but $5 million in a briefcase?
We're getting too old to run, Miles.
Yeah, well, we're still a little too young for San Quentin.
Good point. It's over. The gig is up.
What about the money?
There is no cut.
You do not want to scare me.
I'm still running the show.
So much for that good feeling, huh?
So what do you got going next? Sometimes style can get you killed.
So who cares if you have to bend the rules a little bit? As long as nobody gets hurt.
You're a good grifter, man. It's hard to tell when you're lying.
Let's see, what order are we going to go through? I will just go ahead and give my initial thoughts. I didn't like this, but instead of doing that, I'm going to, in between all the initial thoughts, I'm just going to list off a special feature from the Identity DVD, if that's okay. Widescreen presentation features the option to view the exclusive branded version of the film with the alternate ending and additional scene. Bryden, initial thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't. Thank you for that, Kevin. I wasn't a huge fan of this. I was kind of hoping for it to be good because I love the cast and I think James Foley is capable of making good movies. You know, he's one of those. I mean, I do think he can be a good director, but I think it's like he needs really good material, and unfortunately, he seems to have pretty bad choice in material.
Sure.
I didn't like this really though. I think. I was thinking about like other con artist movies too, because we were in our own Almost Major chat, we were chatting about like other con artist movies, and I think like the key to this is like you need like really tight direction and storytelling and like a certain amount of style, and also you need like actors who can sell like the charisma and also like the malleability of like being able to play different people. And I think, like, I mean, we talked about Focus earlier, and that movie, like, it helps that you have, like, someone who's two people who are very handsome and charismatic, like Will Smith and Margot Robbie, and that to carry it along. And they're convincing in the cons, too, and, like, how they adopt, like, different tones, like, as they're playing different characters. I mean, the whole scene where they're at the football stadium in that movie is fantastic.
Such a good movie.
Yeah, it's fun. It does get a little top-heavy with the twists
I like
at the end,
that
but,
the Frank Ocean song "Bad Religion" is in the trailer. That's all I'll say about that.
Cool. But I think the fatal thing with this movie, fatal is maybe too harsh a word, but like Ed Burns, I don't think he's a terrible actor. But
No.
I do think that he only really plays like the one note that he has throughout the whole movie. Even like in the cons, like, and when whether he's in the con or trying to be menacing, he just seems kind of mildly annoyed at worst when he's like.
Well, I'll tell you, I was thinking about this, rewatching it. Early in the movie, he's talking to the king, and Dustin Hoffman looks at him and says, "You're a good grifter, man. It's hard to tell when you're lying." And the problem with this movie is, it's not hard to tell when he's lying.
No, never.
Right? I mean, that is, without question, like, I think more than anything else, you know, for most people who watch this movie, I think, like, I love Ed Burns, but certainly there's limitations to what he's doing here. And I think it's like, look, Will Smith is very likable, but seems often duplicitous. And I think it's like, yeah, it's great in Focus because you're like, this guy seems like he could totally be full of shit. Because a lot of times with Will Smith in a lot of his movies, even when he's playing the hero, you're kind of like, oh, this guy, what's up with this guy? He seems kind of, he's like a little weird. He's maybe too nice, right? It's like,
he's got some grudge against these robots that we don't understand.
Yeah, what's up with him and these robots? I think Eddie Burns, it's like, you don't have that. He seems like, honestly, like an Irish Catholic dude from New York who probably couldn't tell a lie to save his life. I mean, right? And it's like, that's, I think, yeah, certainly a fatal flaw with this movie. I mean, look, one that I accept and ignore, and I love it. So we'll get into it, but certainly I agree with that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't know if I love, a lot of good actors in the movie too. I mean, when Donald Logan and Luis Guzman are just like, you cut to them like, talking about like their dental plans and like wanting to rip off people, but it almost made me think it plays like a precursor to something like Terriers, that great one season show that he was on, where it's just like him getting into like doing shady stuff for money and everything, and like getting into like weird banter with his partner and everything. Like, I mean, I would be happy to watch a movie about Donald Logan and Luis Guzman ripping people off, but there's not enough of it in the movie. I do think Andy Garcia is fun. I like the touch of like him having the cigar and like always sounding kind of annoyed because he's like talking through clenched teeth with the cigar. Not enough Robert Forster. I don't think he has like maybe 30 words in the movie, which is a big waste of him. And kind of weird because essentially he's like the big target.
I mean,
movie.
Look, Mulholland Drive's like arguably my favorite movie ever, and even that could be said of not enough Robert Forster.
Sure,
like we could always use more Robert Forster. Anyway,
that is totally true.
Yeah.
But I didn't love the dialogue in this. I felt like it was like trying a little too hard it was sweating a little too hard to be cool. I mean, like the opening where it's like rhyming right off the top, where it's like, so I'm dead, and I think it's because of this redhead. I'm like, oh, this is already like smirking a little too much for my own taste. And like then there's like just weird bits of shorthand, like they call like money at one point green Twinkies, and I'm like thinking, are they just talking about dollar bills? Like that's like you're trying a little too hard to make this seem like it's an established shorthand.
This is two movies from the early 2000s where Paul Giamatti is in and Twinkies are referenced. This and Big Fat Liar. Please continue.
Wow.
I completely forgot about Big Fat Liar.
Yeah, and I don't know, the whole thing, like, the other problem too I'd have with the movie is like I don't think Ed Burns has like quite the range to pull this movie off. Where as a lead at least. Rachel Weisz, I think, does, but even like in some of the scenes where like the cons are being held, like that whole like John Carroll Lynch scene, it's also like weird like how erratically the movie is cut together, even in just like simple dialogue scenes. But like it seems like they're always like trying a little too hard like to sell the thing in a way. And like, look, I'll be honest, I'm not always the smartest person in my own life. I'm probably like an easy mark when you're talking about these kinds of cons, but like it seems like that whole scene, like they're like way too like there's way too much zest in the way that they're pitching John Carroll Lynch on like the supposed like business startup they have, or I'm like, I don't know that like this is convincing enough. It seems like you're trying too hard to like seem like you're pulling to do this performance and everything to make it seem like a genuine thing. If that makes sense, I don't know. But then I don't know. It's like it's all supposed to be like backstabbing characters, but then like it ends with like a fucking Coldplay song, and it's like
not just any Coldplay song.
Screamed.
I know. I told like Charlie and Kevin, I was like, get ready for this needle drop. It just like it seems like totally out of whack the way this movie ends with like a happy sort of feel good thing where you're like, oh, and they're all friends and they're all together at the end. I didn't really buy it.
I just real quick, I showed my roommate. I was like, this is how the movie starts, and he's like, okay, and then I put, this is how the movie ends, and he's like, what?
You can't do that. They did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like it's occasionally Foley like has some like nice stuff where like I liked that Dan, you mentioned that scene where like Burns first goes to see Hoffman. I like the way that like sort of it's like the red wall like in the decor in the background, like that sort of like casts like sort of like a reddish hue on like Burns's face and everything. Like that's like a good instance of like getting like the mood through the production design and even like having that like influence the lighting and everything to sort of make it seem like a little more menacing. Like that's really clever direction. I wish there was a little bit more of that. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. There's like stuff in this movie that like is occasionally interesting, but like it didn't really grab me like I feel like other con movies could. Those are my 2 cents, but I'm very curious to hear what other people think about this, especially you, Dan. Yeah.
Dan's going last. He's the final boss. Just want to jump in that the Identity DVD has the director's commentary and deleted scenes with optional director's commentary. Charlie, initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I kind of hated this, and I just want to give a little bit of context. So I had seen Perfect Stranger in high school, and even dumb teenage me was like, good lord, this is stupid. But then I went on a David Mamet kick several years ago, and I saw Glengarry Glen Ross, which I did not see for James Foley. I saw because it was a Mamet script, and it's got a great reputation. in my opinion, that's still James Foley's best movie. I still think I know it's a very basic, very boring take, but he is good at it. And then I saw the 50 Shades sequels because I was morbidly curious about the second one, and then I agreed to review the third one, which was a mistake. But anyway, so I did want to go back and watch, because I've been hearing for years about how he's made good movies. So I went back, and before watching Confidence, I watched At Close Range and After Dark My Sweet. At Close Range I thought was extremely solid and very disturbing, very unsettling. And After Dark My Sweet, I will admit I was a little distracted while watching it. I thought it was fine, but like there's clearly personality here. What I thought was fascinating about doing research for those two movies and then going to this one was both After Dark My Sweet and At Close Range take an hour of just setup in terms of developing the vibe, the characters, the setting, what's at stake, what's going on, and then the thriller elements start. And that's what makes both of those movies effective to me, is like there's stakes there. And what I found to be especially annoying about this movie, as Bryden already hit on, is the movie starts and it's like, so I'm dead. Pretty sure it was this redhead. Anyway, 3 weeks ago, and I'm just like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what's happening. I don't care. And I was also, as Bryden also mentioned, texting the group chat about how I'm especially allergic to con movies when they're done badly. And I was like texting people being like, I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it, but I think it's another reason I go into movies is I have that subconscious thing of I'm going in to be manipulated. I know going into a movie that it's going to manipulate me. That's why we go to the movies. But when a bad one pretends to be smarter than you and it comes off as so smug and so condescending. And within 5 minutes of this thing, Ed Burns is talking to you, literally breaking the fourth wall, explaining all this stuff, and he's dropping a Jack Kerouac reference, and I'm like, ugh, like, Jesus, like, I get it. You're not like it's like getting in a car with someone in high school and it's like, this is how you buy a dime bag of weed. Like look how cool this is. Like I'm just like, okay, cool, like whatever. Like it's so in love with itself. And to be fair, I don't think that James Foley's direction is to blame here. I think he does exactly what he's supposed to do. Kevin just mouthed, I think it is. But I really like certain con movies like Jackie Brown, or even something as heightened as Wild Things, or something like I can get involved in a con movie and I like being manipulated. When movies treating me like a child and talking down to me, it feels so condescending, and it is so, I will admit, so the heteronormativity of this movie is just something I'm especially allergic to, where it's all these dumb meatheads who I don't know who, like why should I care? Why should I care about any of these people? I don't know who you are. I don't care. There's nothing at stake. You just launch me into the action. Okay, sometimes that works, but like, what am I supposed to care about here? And especially the Rachel Weisz character, who, when she shows up, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, she's an actual, like, even though she's underwritten, I love that she gets swept in and she clearly proves her own in certain scenes, but I feel like the movie consistently underwrites her, and she's consistently at the mercy of not just the male characters, but at the screenplay for the way they frame her. And then by the end, I just wanted her to fucking rip everybody off and get away with everything. And it's just not my type of genre to begin with. And I found this movie consistently irritating to the point that I just wanted it to be over. And I felt like the movie was consistently saying, you didn't see this coming. And I'm like, I don't care. I just don't care. Like,
what's the tagline again? I almost had it.
It's not about the money.
It's the money.
It's about the money.
Which I want to know. Did anybody look at that poster, go, huh? And then look at the tagline and think, oh, that makes logical sense.
Oh, okay.
Me go there.
You know
me
what?
go there. One ticket. Yeah. Like yeah. So
standing in line waiting to get the ticket. Did you see that Con is a different color than the rest of Confidence?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So
Ed Burns, let's go. Really quick, storyboard comparison and the stars special on the set of Identity. Mitchell, initial thoughts.
Star special. That's exciting. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of the opposite of Charlie in that, like, where Charlie, like, feels particularly, like, wronged by con movies that are, like, bad. I'm, like, I like con movies so inherently much that,
wow.
like, even one that's not particularly good, I still don't mind, and I have like a decent enough time with. So like watching this to be was like a pretty, you know, like that like 2 a.m. like it's on TNT kind of like vibe where like I would have enjoyed this, you know, as like a teen, just catching it on the fly. And I mean, it's not great, but I didn't mind it. It definitely has like ebbs and flows where like I would go through like 15 minutes of not being interested at all in what's going on, and then like 10 minutes I would be kind of more keyed in. And I was realizing the longer that it went on, the moments where I wasn't particularly interested were a lot of like the narrative stuff where they're trying to explain like what the con is and like that kind of stuff where like I just don't think they did a good job, like, I don't know, making an interesting con. But I think per Bryden's point, a lot of the side characters I thought were really exciting and fun. I think Hoffman, as we said, is absolutely phenomenal in this. I wish he was in it more. As Bryden said, I love Donald Logue and Luis Guzman in this movie. I also think Terriers is one of like the greatest shows ever made, and so it like gave me vibes of that. And I want to watch just like a full series of Donald Logue and Luis Guzman like as these kind of like slightly skeezy but just like fun, like, you know, I mean, decent enough dudes just like trying to get by and make a little, you know, extra on the side. Like I would love to watch a whole series with them. And the other thing is like for the characters that this movie does focus on, which is like the Ed Burns, Paul Giamatti, Brian Van Holt kind of like crew, I think that it's just like the wrong movie for them. Like they don't feel like really like savvy, like Connie hustler dudes, but there are scenes with the three of them together, particularly the John Carroll Lynch scene where they're like at the like bar where they're trying to like pull the wool over on him and kind of like get their like sink their hooks into him, where they have like a rapport between the three of them, Burns, Giamatti, and Van Holt, that I thought really does feel like a really like organic friendship and like a bond that these guys have that go like way back. And I really enjoy just watching them having that kind of back and forth. And I would have liked to see more of that. I think maybe, you know, to Charlie's point too, like I wish that we had just gotten a little bit more time like with the actual characters instead of like feeling that we had to constantly rush to the next like Connie sort of part of it and like keep driving the narrative.
That was
I feel
my
like when we
favorite
settled
scene
down,
in it.
yeah, I think it's the best scene in the movie by far. So yeah, I mean, I liked it. I definitely have things that, you know, I would improve with it. The Andy Garcia stuff is like really weird and just kind of comes out of nowhere and like doesn't really like, there's no suspense to what they're doing with that. And then they pull this big moment with him where they're like, you know, aren't you amazed by what we just did here? And I'm just kind of like, I keep forgetting that guy's even in this movie. Like maybe just a little bit too much going on. But I thought it was okay. I'm excited to hear Dan's pitch on it.
Okay.
No, I mean,
before we get to the
go
final
ahead,
boss of the opinions, filmographies, theatrical trailer, interactive menus, and screen selections, and that, my friends.
Remember when DVDs just had filmographies of the actors on
Because
on
where
the
else could
DVDs?
you get it?
What a time. I would look at those. I would look through them.
Guess I gotta rent City
Excitingly.
Hall with John Cusack.
oh, kind of fun movie.
I've never seen
Schrader
it.
written.
Yeah.
Paul Schrader written.
Schrader.
movie.
There's been a lot of movies that we've done for Artisan and Lionsgate where there's like no info online, but the production notes special features on the DVD has like everything I need to know, and it's just wild.
Yeah, no, so Confidence, yeah, like I've mentioned before, it's a movie I love. I think probably I saw it at the right time. I mean, I feel like I must have seen it right after. I didn't see it in theaters, but I must have seen it right when it became available, you know, in 04 or something. And I just think it's one of those movies that I'm sure I'd seen con movies before. I would have been, you know, 15, 16. But yeah, I think it was a movie that I just really got on the same wavelength. It's funny to think about too, though, because even at that age, I never loved the Tarantino like esque movies. And you could certainly like say that this is in that genre. Like I think it's definitely some of the dialogue is approaching the kind of things to do in Denver when you're dead, Suicide King.
I was about to say I'm feeling a lot of Suicide
Junkies,
Kings in here.
You know those types of movies. But I don't know, now that I'm saying that, maybe I did like those movies because I certainly did seek out like Suicide Kings and Pool Hall Junkies. I found and watched, and I don't know that I love them, but I like wanted to watch them. So maybe it was certainly something I was, you know, more into than I even remember. But yeah, I liked Ed Burns back then a lot. I think I liked his whole energy. Like I said earlier, in hindsight, I don't think it really works for the movie. I think certainly the con is both too complicated and too simple, and I think it does kind of commit a cardinal sin of like just not telling you information as a means of just feigning complication, where it's like in fact what's happening is quite simple, right? They're just kind of like, they're just putting on a show for Frankie G, basically, right? That's basically all they're doing. But I think, look, the truth of it is, and I've said this before on our podcast, like this movie just always worked for me, and it's a comforting movie to rewatch for me. So like all of the flaws are just nice. It's like a warm bath. So it's like I hear all the criticisms and I don't even necessarily disagree with any of them, and yet I don't care. So like Morris Chestnut playing a hitman. I mean, why? What's happening, right? Like, why? What is that character? But that being said, like, I love, like, back then, even now, but especially back then, I loved Morris Chestnut. Like, movies like The Brothers, right? Like, those
Anaconda,
movies.
The Hunt for the Blood Orchid.
Oh, that one? Yeah. Like, I think came out like the year after this.
Yeah.
I loved him. So it's like, that's another thing. It's like Rachel Weisz, like I loved Chain Reaction. I think Brian mentioned or Kevin mentioned, like
I like that movie.
The Andrew Davis movie. She's great in that movie. That was her first American movie, right? Like, so I think that's the other thing. It's like you just, the Hoffman performance, I remember thinking was just the coolest shit I'd ever seen. Like the fast gum chewing. In the commentary, he says all the shit he does, the gum chewing and the goatee and all that, that's all James Foley. He was just like, I just took it from James Foley. Like James Foley chews gum like he's mad at it, and I just took that, and that's kind of it. I mean, there's on an intellectual level, I don't really have much of a leg to stand on. But I think what I always say when it comes to like the Letterboxd ratings and stuff is like,
I was gonna ask you about this.
You can go through and look at my favorite film. I have like 830 movies that I've given 5 stars, right? And I list them, and the rating always changes. My thing is like you're gonna see Elizabethtown and Confidence and I Love You, Man.
This is why.
I
you're the
love
best.
that movie. Yeah, I Love You, Man's great.
But another one, for
base.
example, like Micho Black, right? 5-star movie. Okay, now if we want to talk about Micho Black, like there's a million terrible things about that movie. But once again, it's like I read a book. I read this interesting book where the editor was talking about cutting Micho Black and going to Martin Brest and being like, and I think I said this on our Brad Pitt B-side episode, but like the editor, an editor friend, Martin Brest brought the full cut of Micho Black to like a friend who was an editor who wasn't editing the movie and was like, they're telling me I need to cut an hour out of the movie. Like, what do you think? And the editor watched the movie and came back to Martin Brest and was like, yeah, Marty, like, yeah, like you gotta cut it out.
Do you need the scene where
Like,
Brad
this
Pitt
is just-
has
this
the
is
patch
like
wall? Really?
Right.
Yes.
This is like a laborious picture. Like you have to, and Marty Brest at that point, coming off of a bunch of Oscar wins for Scent of a Woman and all these things, he literally was like, "Fuck you, like fuck the studio. I have final cut. Like this is the movie." And it was a pretty hated movie, and it didn't particularly do well, and it was kind of the end of that part of Brad Pitt's career. And my argument is like the reason I love that movie is because it's 3 hours, right? Because it's so crazy and so languid, and the pace is like it's literally like watching an art film. The pace of that movie is like just it's like you can't even imagine like just the length and breadth of like scenes and so my point being like when I'm ranking stuff, I see no difference between personal favorite and best, right? Sure. That's just how I rate things. So it's like, Battle of Algiers has 5 stars, Confidence has 5 stars.
The same 2 movies, yeah. I mean, I'm the exact same way. Like when I
so it's like that's
get
just
like
what
a
it is,
movie,
yeah.
like, and like if I see a movie and like it just feels like 5 stars for me, I give it 5 stars. Like I don't give a shit. Like there are
that's
movies
kind
that
of
like
how
I just go off of vibes. Like when I'm rating a movie on Letterboxd, I will say I did check the numbers. I think before recording, you mentioned that you were probably the only person to give it 5 stars on Letterboxd.
No.
I did check the numbers. 6.6 thousand people have like logged having seen Confidence. 39 of them, including
What
Dan
a
Mecca,
company
have
to
given it
be
5
in,
stars.
Dan.
My
That's
people.
right.
Those are my people.
I think one of those might be Ed Burns, but
He just goes down and friend
Oh,
requests
so like
every single person.
I'll give you two other like, debacle movies that are like easy 5 stars for me. Okay.
Freddy Got Fingered.
And you can see this all on my thing.
Okay.
Hudson Hawk,
Oh wow.
a movie I like love in a way I can't even fully. I've watched it so many times. I love Hudson Hawk. Okay. And then another one, which I think has kind of weirdly come around, and I don't know how I feel about it because I've loved it for so long, and it kind of bothers me that people now, everybody seems to love it, is Cocktail, which is like,
sure. You and Connor, man.
yeah, and I've loved that my
Cocktail
whole life,
Boys.
and now I get these fucking people being like, oh, it's great. I'm like, bitch, you weren't there. You weren't there. But, my point just being simply, another one, The Last Samurai, very problematic movie. 5-star movie for me. It is what it is.
I need
Hell
to see
yeah.
that.
It is what it is. I cannot tell a lie.
Well,
So
I
that's-
heard on a recent B-side episode, we were just talking about something. You're just like, yes, I did give this 5 stars. I know it is not a but when I was young, this movie meant a lot. So now that I've watched other stuff, and I can tell that there's it still gives me a 5-star rating kind of vibe.
So a movie that I will say I did change it, and this might be what you're talking about. Maybe is Katie Walsh came on. To
That's
talk about
right.
Val Kilmer
That's
movies.
right.
And I loved The Salton Sea.
That's a good movie.
That's
That's a
which
good
is
movie.
which is
Hell of a-
similar. It's also Tarantino-y. Like there's like a little bit of that. It was DJ Crusoe's first movie.
Yeah, Peter Sarsgaard is so good in that.
Peter Sarsgaard. I will say, after talking with Katie, I did drop it down to 4 stars because she made some points. She did make some points where I was kind of like, it's hard to get past some of this stuff, like in hindsight. But I still love the movie though, because it's like
I'm looking through the list right now. You got Adjustment Bureau, 5 stars.
oh, that's a
Oh, I wrote
that's
about that for
Orange
a
County.
religion class in
that's
grade 8.
that's just a great movie though.
Yeah.
Orange County at 5 stars.
Orange County
I
is
mean,
a
this
5-star film.
I cited that on an
baller
episode
list.
recently, I think.
Can I tell you funny? So one of my favorite memories in my whole life, this is true, like in my whole entire life, is me and Connor were this is a million years ago. Me and Connor were like so high at his apartment at college, maybe after college. And we put on Orange County as a movie we both deeply love.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene where Colin Hanks, everybody's getting their college acceptance letter,
Uh-huh.
and so he like frantically calls home, and Jack Black is like his like near to well brother, and he calls, and Jack Black's just sitting on the couch high out of his mind, and he's like, Lance, he's like, you gotta check if the mail is there, right? And he like doesn't know what he's saying, and then finally, Jack Black's like, do I have to turn on your computer? And he's like, no, just go to the front door and see if the mail's like through the slot on the and then Jack Black goes, okay, but you owe me, buddy. Me and Connor, I think we laughed for like 30 minutes because like we were like, all he has to do is walk over to the front door. We like couldn't stop laughing, and that movie has like 7 different, like the whole Ben Stiller scene where he's like,
Jim John.
Yeah.
Your name is Jim John.
G-
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, she was just talking. She hated her job. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna burn this mother down. He's like,
better
she said
not.
it was an
You better
I
not.
said, you better not. And she said it was an electrical fire. Oh yeah, no, totally electrical.
The recurring bit of Butterfly playing at every
Oh,
party
it's
in that movie is
so
so funny.
good.
Am I the only one who hasn't seen Orange County here?
Oh, it's the best.
Charlie,
Yeah.
do it.
Okay, I guess
Kevin
I have
A
homework.
Mike
Kevin
White
Kline.
classic. Come on.
Oh fuck,
Orange
Mike
County
wait,
live watch episode.
Wait,
Mike White wrote it.
Oh,
You
Yes.
wrote
In
it.
it as the English teacher, which is a very funny scene.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
Yes.
And Chevy Chase. Is
Chevy
really
Chase is a
good in that scene.
great heat check in that movie.
I specifically remember the poster where Colin Hanks has the slices over his eyes and Jack Black has the slice in his mouth.
Yeah,
that's
famous,
all I
yeah.
know about that fucking movie.
That's
It's
an MTV. That's
funny.
an MTV Films. film.
Yeah. Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungles. Jake Kasdan directed.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Zero
Zero
Effect,
Effect,
Zero
which is
Effect.
kind of cool.
Jake Kasdan.
Directed the Freaks
Great.
and Geeks pilot, I
I just
believe.
thought it would be
Yeah.
funnier to say Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle.
Well, would it be
Zero
funny to
Effect
say
rules.
Jumanji: The Next Level, bro?
I couldn't remember I couldn't remember the subtitle of the second one.
Well, Dan, that scene is. I thought you were going to bring up where he's calling him and he doesn't hear him because he is watching SpongeBob SquarePants and just laughing for like 30 seconds straight.
Relatable. Okay, now I have to see this.
It's
Catherine
so
O'Hara,
good.
fucking
it's
John
just so
Lithgow,
good.
Lily Tomlin in it.
Lily
Oh,
Tomlin,
yes.
the guidance counselor.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's Fran Kranz is the other Lance Brumder, where he's like,
Yes.
I got into Harvard. I applied as a joke. I'm freaking out, man. That whole scene. Oh, that's a great movie. So let's just put it on and talk.
I was about
it.
to say this is now turned into an Orange County pal. Yeah, yeah.
You have to turn on your computer. It's the funniest.
All right, you owe me one.
You owe me one, buddy.
I got these
Jack
ideas
Black.
that burn
Jack-
into my skull, like a T-shirt that says "loser" or like "talk to the hand." That would sell.
It's like that dude, his 2000 where he just became a star, High Fidelity.
High Fidelity. Yeah.
Jesus'
Oh my God.
son.
I got compared. The reason I saw High Fidelity in the first place is I worked at Newbury Comics, which is the equivalent of. It's a New England style brand. It's a New England store company, but it is just music and DVDs and stuff like that. And I was a bit of a snob 10 years ago, and they're like, "God, you're like the Jack Black of this store." And I was like, "What are you talking
Oh, that's
about?"
funny.
And then they were like, "Have you not seen High
him.
Fidelity?" And then I went home and I watched it, and I was like, "Oh God, I kind of
Don't tell anybody
am
you
that
don't own
person."
fucking Blonde on Blonde.
Yeah.
Since when did this become a fascist regime?
It's like, do you even know your daughter? There's no way she likes that song.
Oh my God,
is
that scene.
Is she in a coma? Is she in a coma?
That scene is so good.
There's like 40 perfect scenes of that. That's a movie that I suppose you could argue has not aged well, but I'm like, whatever.
It's aware that there's like
It's
a lot wrong
aware.
with the characters.
It's
but-
aware that
Yeah,
Rob
yeah.
is a shitty guy. Yeah, yeah.
Just like how a few episodes ago, me and Charlie made the blood pact that we have to watch Swim Fan. Or not Swim Fan. Of
Ooh.
course we're going to watch Swim Fan after that.
Swordfish.
We did it already.
Swordfish.
We did
Swordfish.
an episode
I
on
had already
Swordfish.
seen Swim Fan. Yeah.
Oh,
Swordfish
the
is a
famous-
ride. That's a
The
ride.
famous, I mean, iconic getting a blowjob while trying to hack into the
couldn't believe
government. scene.
I knew that
Hugh
going in,
Jackman.
and that's why I've been wanting to watch it, because I was like, how does this
Just
happen?
to watch it, to be 13 when that happened, you're like, is this what actually happened?
Yeah.
This can happen to me.
Is this what
If I
adults
get into
do?
hacking? Really?
The
and
opening-
then I'm gonna be on a bus and a helicopter is gonna somehow tether to it and it's gonna bring it off the ground. That's
Well,
what's gonna happen?
Charlie, I don't know if you're going to say this. The opening where like Travolta fully misreads the movie Dog Day Afternoon.
Well, that, and then on top of
it's
that,
the most insane thing.
and then the action set piece where they have that woman strapped to a bomb. That poor
I
woman.
know.
That
It
poor
explodes.
woman. And I was like, this
It's like
is
a Matrix shot that they do.
It's incredible.
Oh,
I
fully,
was
fully.
like,
They spent so much money on that one shot
for,
too. It's crazy.
for something so
Yeah.
vile, I was laughing so hard. I was like, they got away with this. This is disgusting.
It also has. I will say this. It also has one of my favorite things in movies like that, where not long after that scene, Don Cheadle shows up at Hugh Jackman's like trailer on top of the Hollywood Hills. or
Oh my
whatever.
God.
Yeah.
And literally, it's to talk, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they proceed to have a
Yep.
foot chase where they fall down all of the Hollywood
Yep.
Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like that
It's
scene in
literally like
Hot
a very.
Rod.
I was about to say it's the serious version of the Hot Rod.
Yeah.
And then it ends. But what's so great about the scene is it ends and it's like, then Hugh
just
Jackman
get
is
up.
just in an interrogation room. Like
Just
he
have a
doesn't get
conversation.
arrested. They let him go. Like there was no cause. It was
my
like Don
God.
Cheadle was checking up on him, and he ends up like rolling down all you know from Mulholland Drive all the way down to friggin'
Yeah.
Laurel all the way down Laurel Canyon. It's hysterical.
We've
but-
talked about how cops were much more lenient in early aughts movies. Like we've talked about Rat Race quite a few times, where it's like, yeah, John Lovett doesn't want to stop and makes his daughter take a shit out of the car, and it lands on a cop car, and then it's like, and it cuts back to them wiping the windshield off. And it's like, so how fast was I going? And it's like, so did they go to jail? No, they just keep going. It's just like,
Yeah, it's a warning.
just like
Yeah,
what? like,
Well, you definitely have some lenient cops in Confidence.
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like while browsing the video store while like they pull off a heist or a con job.
Yeah. But no, what I was setting up, like how me and Charlie did that. Charlie, it is now your duty to watch Orange County, and I will probably rewatch Identity because I haven't seen it since it came out. There's a lot of plot to go through, and I don't want to make this extra long. But final thoughts on Confidence.
Final thoughts? I love it.
There.
So that's my final thought. I would just
wait. Go ahead, Dan.
This is what I would say about Confidence. It's if you are a young listener, watch it now because I think it's a good starter pack for con movies.
Sure.
There are many other better, smarter con movies. You know,
currently
the one that I always
Tubi, yeah.
The one that I always think of is The Grifters. Is a movie I love. So John Cusack. High Fidelity and Identity. John Cusack. So I would just say that would be my thing, and I think if you listen to this podcast, I would assume you are interested in kind of like maybe lesser seen movies to some degree. So I think the Ed Burns thing is interesting. I'm not saying, your mileage may vary. I think what I was alluding to earlier is what I think is fascinating about Ed Burns as an actor is he has a insanely specific New York nasally voice, right? Like Ed Burns has this thing, and I grew up around this, right? Where it's like he sounds like a Mets fan, right? And I don't know if he is a Mets fan, but he sounds like someone who's like, he's like, it's Sunday morning, we got to take out the trash, and I said we got to do this, and it's like very like, whoa, dude, just wow, there's a lot happening.
Take
like
a breath, buddy.
I don't know if you guys get these ads on your YouTube, but he does the ads for I think is it B&H, which is B&H is the New York equipment rental. You can like buy video like cameras and it's like a famous New York video store.
Now you know almost the whole story. We are B&H.
And it's so funny that, of course, I love that they got him to do it because he is like this quintessential New York filmmaker. He's like, true B&H stories for people in, and you're like, oh, holy shit, we're in New York. Whoa. And I think my point is, I think it is actually a hard thing to import like elsewhere. I actually think that's true. Like, I think when, like, my wife, Kelly's from Pittsburgh.
My wife.
She is, when she hears Eddie Burns' voice, she's like immediately like, oh, right? Like she's like she like hears it and it's a little off-putting. And when I hear his voice, it's like just a beautiful, lovely cup of tea. I'm home. I'm like, oh, yes. Sing me a song, Ed Burns. I really think it hurt his, like, I really think, I would bet you it hurt his, like, international sellability as a star. I'm not even kidding. Because he's so handsome. He's a handsome guy, but he sounds like this.
What do you think the foreign dubs for Ed Burns sound like? Do you think it's like all the same?
Not like Ed Burns.
Also, you saying he's a Mets, but probably a Mets fan. I found this article from Page 6 from
Yankees.
2018 where he was going to make a documentary about the Mets player Tom Seaver. Now this is back in 2018. We have not heard from this. I don't think yet, but. Never know. Things can sometimes
maybe so.
for a while.
Look, if he's from Queens, he's probably a Mets fan.
Yeah,
right?
he is a lifelong Mets fan. That's
okay. So there you go.
You can hear it in the voice. I don't know why you have to ask, but yeah. To talk about the dubs, there was a Bollywood remake of Confidence in 2005. I'm just now finding out.
Wow. Maybe I should have watched it.
There's an Indian actor trying their absolute best to Edward Burns.
Just when I thought I was out. Bollywood. Now we could talk about the cooler now if you want.
Yes.
Wait, hold up.
Please.
I before we move on from Confidence, I have to say, imagine have you all seen this movie before? Obviously Dan has. I had not seen this movie before, as I mentioned. Imagine my goddamn surprise. An hour into this movie, out of fucking nowhere, the most belligerent, offensive, anti-redhead propaganda is flying out of nowhere.
And they never explain it. They They never
They
explain.
do a
Well,
montage of the
it's
top
his mother.
3
His
all-time
mother
worst
left.
that they
redheads.
do, but
What are we
it's
doing?
bullshit. Yeah,
Including his mom who
What are we
walked out
doing?
on him, which feels like leftovers from Reckless, which is also about a teen who's mad at his mom for leaving him.
Okay, what's the top 3? What's the top 3?
Lizzie
Borden.
Borden was one of them.
Judas Iscariot.
right?
Judas and my fucking mother.
Yeah, I blocked that out. I completely blocked out their explanation as to
I just
why
remember-
redheads are bad luck.
I'm like, she looks
Yeah.
good. Like, I'm
I
fine.
was kind of on this movie's side at that point, and then they brought this
Right.
in, and I'm like,
I forgot
mean,
that. Of course.
you know, by nature, I have to be against it now. So
I hear you. It's hard to argue that.
shots out for James Foley.
Now,
If I see him, it's on site.
if they had a top 3 best redheads, and
Mitchell Beaupre.
well, that's
Yeah.
a given. But like,
All
let's
3
you know,
slots. Yeah.
it's just like, oh, what's
That's
the
me.
what's the best movie of all time? Citizen Kane.
Me at
Okay, but
3
let's be
different eras.
interesting here. You know, that's a given. Me and wow.
Prince Harry, Mitchell Beaupre.
Who else?
I don't know.
Okay.
Chucky?
I don't know. My
Chucky
friend
the
Abby.
doll.
Shout out to
Oh,
my friend Abby.
are you gonna?
Redhead.
Shout out to Abby.
That's like the final 2 is Chucky versus Mitchell Beaupre over the Redhead Awards, and
right.
you'll find out about that next week actually. Okay.
That's all I got. That was the
Okay.
opening. We can move on
Okay.
to the report.
We can stop recording now. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at KevBonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at JDoyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CTNash91. Once again, thank you for listening.